You're earning, you're pushing, you're working, but you're not rewarding yourself. No one shrinks their way to wealth. No one shrinks their way to wealth. It's all about production and value creation. Where can we find money for you? With your existing assets. We went to Europe in May and I decided, I've always been a little bit chintzy on the flying. We're like, okay, we're economy comfort to Europe. And we went with the lay down flat beds. And my wife looked at me with her champagne in hand and was like, we going this way next year to Europe, right? I guess so, yeah. Better get that living wealthy account going. But just spend that money guilt-free once it hits there, because if you don't, then what, you're earning, you're pushing, you're working, but you're not rewarding yourself. And that just becomes, that's like doing a diet where a 0-calorie diet. Eventually you're like, I'm going to eat everything in my room right here that is $27 per gummy bear, right? Like that just doesn't work. So don't restrict things from your life from too long. And the other thing is, and this is worth writing down, no one shrinks their way to wealth. No one shrinks their way to wealth. It's all about production and value creation. So set up automation. That's the first part of cash flow banking. And then once the money starts building up in this wealth capture account, see, I want you to automate your savings, but don't automate your investing. Automated investing is a horrible idea. I just automatically put money in this investment every month, no matter what it does. And then on average, I'll buy high and low, just depending. No, don't automate investing. Automate your savings, be deliberate with your investing. Now that savings account, you might turn that into a brokerage account. And if you get a brokerage account, you get a line of credit against it. If you get a line of credit against it, you now have access to buy inventory, right? Or you could set it up in a overfunded life insurance policy that has cash value, and you can pull that cash value out anytime you want and use that for inventory. But I want you to start building liquidity, because every business that ends up going out of business, even though they have a decent model in business, is because they didn't have enough liquidity. Liquidity is underemphasized in the world of finance because no one gets paid on you being liquid. And what I mean by liquid is just enough money in this wealth capture account, all right? Then you start transferring, when you start getting that built up, you can transfer it into a wealth creation account, which would be something that has a line of credit against it, so you can start putting it to use. Have at least 6 months of your expenses built up in your wealth capture account before you start allocating it to other things. But just have that automated, pay yourself first, so as you have more income, a higher amount will go in there because the percentage stays the same. Less income, less of a percentage, so it's not about you budgeting. And then once a month, meet with an accountability partner. That might be a spouse, it might be a business partner, it might be a financial person, and just look at, are you saving more than you're spending, making sure that you're staying in your parameters. And then you don't have to have envelopes and jars and budget and cut stuff out, and you can start enjoying life more along the way. Sound all right? All right. Now, let's move on to the next piece, which is, where can we find money for you with your existing assets that currently exist? That's redundant, I get it. Your existing assets that currently exist, right? That's like an Austin Powers moment, and you guys were nice enough not to laugh at me at that one, I always tell my wife I want to be a comedian, and she always tells me there's no shot in hell that I could be a comedian. And I said, no, when I speak at events, people laugh. She goes, they think you're going to make them money, so they're just giving you a courtesy. Yeah, she really says this. She did, in Europe, I did tell some jokes in a room of people I didn't know, and people laughed. She says, you might actually have a shot, never to make money, but to actually entertain people for a few moments that don't know anything about you making them money. So I've made a little bit of progress. That's a big deal. So the first place to look for money and really improve cash flow is just comb through any loan you have and find your top interest rates. If you're paying a higher interest rate on any loan than you're earning with any investment, cash out that damn investment and pay off the loan. It'll immediately improve your cash flow, improve your credit score, and we can now start renegotiating and better interest rates everywhere else. The second thing, if you hate debt and you don't want to be in debt, don't make the mistake of shortening your loans. You're in business. Business means cash flow is going to ebb and flow. The last thing you want to do is force yourself into a higher payment on any single loan. If anything, you want to extend your loans to a longer period, because if you have the cash, you can always pay it off. You could even choose to pay more. But if you force yourself into a higher payment, number one, it lowers your credit score. And by lowering your credit score, it might hurt every interest rate you get on every other loan, or you might get denied a loan if you need a line of credit for inventory. So now that as you're in business, manage your cash flow carefully. Calculate your cash flow. Do everything you can to improve your cash flow and nothing to hurt your cash flow. Even if that means, because sometimes when people, and the best marketing the banks ever do is they say, this is a 30-year mortgage, and people think, oh my God, I have to have this mortgage for 30 years. And we have a 10-year mortgage. Oh, that's good, that's only 10 years. But did you know, this is a big secret, you could pay off a 30-year mortgage in 7 years. There's nothing forcing you to wait 30 years, but there's an emotional trigger there. And did you know that a bank can sell a 15-year mortgage? Anyone ever had a mortgage and then all of a sudden it was a different company 30 days later or a year later? Because they sell those. And do you know they can sell a 15-year mortgage for a lot more than they can a 30-year mortgage? Because banks are really good at managing cash flow. They're looking for cash to come in. So they want you to have higher payments. Make the lowest payments you possibly can. We use something called the cash flow index. You take your loan, you divide it by the minimum monthly payment, and it spits out a number. If the number is less than 50, you have a cash hog on your hands. You have something that's requiring a high payment in relationship to a low balance. You want to restructure those or eliminate those. If you have a car loan or a car that's paid off, you could refinance a car loan and get a really low interest rate, usually like 2.9%, and pay off higher interest rate credit cards. Just look at your cash flow and start thinking from a cash flow perspective with every single loan that you have. Does this make sense? Is that practical stuff everyone can go look at and they can go implement and they could do? So I'm going to gift everyone some guides on this. You don't have to opt in or anything. It's just on behalf of Wealth Factory and Amazing.com. I'm going to give you a couple resources. One is the guide to cash flow, or the entrepreneur's guide to cash flow. So this is going to be something that has 7 segments where you can go in and you can say, how can I improve cash flow in my finances with my existing assets? That will lay it down for you. The second thing that I'm going to gift you in that cash flow report is, how do you do the proper due diligence? Because don't we hear about due diligence in finance all the time? Isn't that words that you've heard, like, oh, you got to do due diligence? It's a little hard to do due diligence when the person that's telling you that is selling you the product. There's a little bit of a conflict of interest. And it's a lot like Sasquatch. You hear about it all the time, but you've never seen due diligence in your life, So we actually give you the 10 questions to ask before making any investment. It's called the investment scorecard. I took this guy, KJ, and his brother Andy through it. They owned a business. And when they finished it, they're like, I hate you. I'm like, why? They're like, if I would have had this 10 years ago, I'd have millions more because we've made so many stupid mistakes that this makes it so clear to avoid. And that's the thing. That's where you change your family's destiny, is when you stop making financial mistakes. When you invest a little bit of time in looking at your finances. I know it takes courage, because sometimes the entrepreneur just gets on a treadmill and they think, if I can just make more money, it'll solve everything. But more money, as my buddy Biggie used to say, more problems, right? More money, more problems, right? Now, I didn't know Biggie, but anyway, the song. So Mike's someone that I met in 2008. He went through our program, and I can share this confidential information because he shared it 100 times on stage, on video. Normally, I can't talk about this kind of stuff, but since you're right there, we saved him $100,000 in taxes by doing amendments. He had missed things for the last 3 years, and if you're a business owner, you can look back 3 years and amend your returns. So the IRS sent him a check for $102,000 from that. The second thing is, so amending returns. Every 3 years, I have a second set of eyes look at my taxes. Sometimes it's a tax attorney, sometimes it's a CPA, even though I have my normal financial team. And in 2009, I found $54,000 that even I missed in the damn financial world. There's 77,000 pages in the US alone that these attorneys and accountants have to navigate through to save on tax. So 93% of you are probably overpaying on tax. The second thing is, he was making great money in business and didn't set up a corporation. Can you believe that? Let's shame him right now. Oh. Just kidding. That was odd. I love these guys. I wish I had more time. No, just kidding. So we set up a corporation, and did you know, one of the cool things as a business owner, you can reclassify your income. Most people just take a salary. That's the highest tax possible. But if you could take a dividend, or you can turn something into a capital gain, then that's what we did for him, and that saved another $10,000 a year. 20,000. I mean, I'm trying to be conservative here and not make everybody think we're going to be magic. We don't save everyone these kind of numbers, right? But $20,000 a year by setting up a corporation, doing that, and he owned a physical business, so we were able to give him 3 times the tax deductions on something called cost segregation. So, he's a good person to talk to because he spent so much time around us. And then I think you improved your cash flow from restructuring loans that I talked about today, improving credit score, restructuring insurance policies with staying in the same companies. How much was that? $3,600 a month. So I think he owes me lunch and dinner for the rest of this trip. What do you guys think? Yeah, so anyway.